Hey guys, so today we're gonna be talking about same-sex marriage. Please don't mind me because I am sick a little bit, so let's get into the video. Okay, so my view on same-sex marriage, I feel like do what you want, basically. Like, you love who you want to love, you marry who you want to marry. It's not my problem. It's not, I don't have to deal with it. Me personally, I don't care about same-sex marriage. I feel like if you want to marry the same sex as you, go ahead. Like, I feel like can't nobody tell you what you can and can't do when it comes to your relationship. Now, I know some people say same-sex marriage shouldn't be legal because it's all about heterosexual marriage and how it's supposed to be man and wife, and how two men or two women can't procreate normally. Like, it's supposed to be just man and wife and kid, but you can't live your life like everybody else. Is what I'm trying to get at. Like, just because a same-sex marriage wouldn't work for you doesn't mean it wouldn't work for others. But I have this YouTube clip that we're gonna watch, and it's gonna tell you basically everyone's views on it. So I have the opposite side views, and then a person views that's like me. So let's get into the videos.
Momentum gaining on Capitol Hill to codify the right to same-sex marriage. Fox 5's chief legal correspondent Katie Barlow taking a look at where things stand in Virginia, where there seems to be some confusion there following some recent comments from the governor. Katie.
Well, good evening to both of you. The frenzy to codify the right to same-sex marriage on Capitol Hill comes as activists are concerned that the right to same-sex marriage equality, could be on the chopping block after the Supreme Court overturned the right to abortion. Now, dozens of states have what are called zombie laws. It's a funny term, but it means laws on the books banning same-sex marriage that right now aren't enforceable because the Supreme Court has said there is a right to same-sex marriage. So they're dead like zombies. But if the Supreme Court were to overturn the right, then those laws could automatically go into effect, thus rising like the Walking Dead. And Virginia is one of those states that has a zombie law.
However, there is a provision in Virginia's Constitution that was passed in 2006 that said that same-sex marriage is not permissible under the Virginia Constitution. So if Obergefell is overturned, there is some very serious concern that same-sex marriage will be unlawful in Virginia.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin recently told CBS News that same-sex marriage was protected in the Commonwealth and that it's the law. Now, while that's true because the Supreme Court made its 2015 landmark decision in Obergefell, if that decision were overturned, then Virginia's constitutional ban on same-sex marriage would remain in effect. Now, Virginia Senator Adam Ebbin led efforts to get rid of the constitutional ban on same-sex marriage in the Commonwealth. A change to constitutional amendments in Virginia has to pass both Virginia houses twice, with an intervening election between the two times it passes before it's then sent to the voters for their approval.
The Constitution of Virginia says that marriage would be limited to opposite sex couples. And we've had legislation to change the Constitution that passed one year, but it has to pass 2 years in a row. And the Republican House majority had defeated it this past year.
Mary Bauer from the ACLU also pointed out that today, 1 in 25 marriages in Virginia are between couples of the same sex, and that the Commonwealth has changed a lot since the constitutional ban was passed back in 2006. Back to you.
So, Katie, if this were to be codified and this were to become law, what happens if it's overturned? What really is the law then?
Well, if they're able to get a law through both houses of Congress and on the president's desk that protects the right to same-sex marriage across the country, then this argument could really be null and void. Any efforts to ban same-sex marriage would violate that law. Of course, you never know, and there are always situations that could arise legally to raise certain questions. But if Congress were to move forward, like it looks like there was momentum for today, then this could be an irrelevant conversation here in Virginia. But for now, it's still on the books.
Now, Clarence Thomas, he is trying to get the courts to reconsider same-sex marriage because he feels like they shouldn't have the right to marry, even though that's his opinion or whatever. But here's a clip on that.
The decision is rippling across the country, but some are worried it could trickle down to other cases. Today's opinion mentioned several other landmark cases, and now the question is, could they be in jeopardy?
I was the named plaintiff in the landmark Supreme Court case Obergefell v. Hodges, which made marriage equality the law of the land.
Jim Obergefell was the man behind this celebration. It was almost exactly 7 years ago when the Supreme Court ruled that same-sex couples have the right to marry. Fast forward to Friday, when we saw a similar scene outside the High Court.
What it brought up in my mind is that the dichotomy of these decisions.
But Obergefell's decision is back in the limelight because it was mentioned in the Dobbs decision. Justice Clarence Thomas argued in his concurring opinion that the Constitution's Due Process Clause does not secure a right to abortion, and he adds, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. The Griswold decision meant married couples would have the right to use contraception. Eisenstadt also is mentioned elsewhere and confirms the same for unmarried couples. Lawrence protects the right of same-sex consensual sexual conduct. And as we've mentioned, the Obergefell decision guaranteed same-sex couples the right to marry.
My case is definitely one of the first on the hit list. I mean, we haven't really enjoyed marriage equality in this nation. We've had the ability to get marriage licenses and to get married and to have our states recognize them, but we haven't enjoyed marriage equality.
But in the majority opinion Friday, it says this. The dissent suggests that our decision calls into question Griswold, Eisenstadt, Lawrence, and Obergefell. But we have stated unequivocally that nothing in this opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. Governor Mike DeWine also agreed that gay marriage in particular is likely to stand.
I don't think that is permissible by the Constitution as ruled by the U.S. Supreme Court 2 years ago. I don't think that is going to happen. No, that's simply not going to happen.
Now, we also should mention that in Justice Kavanaugh's concurring opinion, he mentioned several times that overruling Roe does not mean the overruling of those precedents we mentioned. And we should note that Jim Obergefell is running for a seat in the Ohio House.